I'd like to say good evening to everyone who's joining us today for tonight's AAS Digital Dialogue. My name is Mara Cunningham. I'm the Digital Media Manager at the Association for Asian Studies. And I'm very happy to welcome you all to this event, which I'm hosting from Ann Arbor, Michigan, which the AAS acknowledges occupies the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe, including Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi, and Wyandot peoples. Thank you all so much for attending our virtual relaunch of Education About Asia, or EAA, as we call it in the office. EAA was founded in 1996 as the teaching journal of the Association for Asian Studies. And from then until 2023, it was led by editor Lucian Ellington. The journal went on hiatus when Dr. Ellington retired in late 2023, and he passed away just a few months later. After a period of evaluation and discussion, the AAS decided to relaunch EAA as a fully open access, peer-reviewed online journal. A search committee selected Dr. Elise Huerta to serve as the journal's editor, with John Wilson of AAS filling in as the managing editor. Elise and John have worked tirelessly over the past year to bring Education About Asia back to you with both a new issue and a new website, which you'll get to see tonight. And tonight, they're going to talk a bit about what the journal will look like moving forward and how you can play a role in it. We also have two contributors to the new spring 2026 issue of EAA with us to speak about their articles. Dr. Anne-Marie Davis is Associate Professor and Japanese Studies Librarian at The Ohio State University, as well as Curator of Manga at the University Library's Billy Ireland Cartoon Library and Museum. And Dr. Bill Tsutsui is President and Professor of History at Ottawa University. A specialist in the economic, environmental, and cultural history of modern Japan, he's the author or editor of 8 books, including Japanese Popular Culture and Globalization, a title in the AAS Key Issues in Asian Studies series. Both of them have written articles for this issue's special section on Japanese monsters and yokai. We're going to start today's session with an introduction to Education About Asia by Dr. Elise Huerta, followed by a tour of the new EAA website that John Wilson will lead. After that, Elise, Anne-Marie, and Bill will talk about the new issue of the journal, and we'll also answer audience questions. So if you have those, please add them to the Q&A box that you see at the bottom of your screen. So with that, I will turn things over to Elise to get us started.
Great. Thank you so much, Maura, for the introduction. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Just make sure everybody can see. Okay. Can you guys see okay? Okay, great. Thank you so much for the introduction. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. I want to take a moment before launching in to give acknowledgement to the Freeman Foundation, which has recently awarded the Association for Asian Studies a significant grant to support the online relaunch of the journal. And I also want to thank all of our donors, all of our individual donors to our grassroots fundraising campaign, Education About Asia for All, which has made the relaunch of EAA possible. In addition, I want to thank our authors, our volunteer peer reviewers, editorial board, fundraising committee, and the EAA transition committee for ensuring the continuation of the journal. And of course, more than anyone, I have to thank AAS publications manager and managing editor John Wilson, who has been my partner on this project from the start and who has done a meticulous job making sure that the new website looks fantastic. So I'm really excited to show that to you all too. So for those of you who are new to Education About Asia, as Maura mentioned, EAA is a peer-reviewed pedagogy journal that produces introductory overviews on topics of broad interest in the field of Asian studies. And these are really intended to be materials that could be assigned as readings in either the high school classroom or in an undergraduate survey course. And in addition, we also publish a wide variety of different kinds of teaching resources and, since relaunching online, multimedia materials. I also want to note that EAA has a very diverse and broad readership. Since the over 2,000 articles were moved online in 2024, the archives received almost 900,000 page views in a year, representing almost 60% of the total traffic to the AAS website. So in other words, Education About Asia is a really important high-impact journal with a diverse and broad readership. And I really see this not just as a journal, but as a public humanities project. And in that spirit, I want to take a few moments to talk about how I see the mission of Education About Asia relating to and responding to some of the most pressing issues that are facing Asian studies education as a whole. So as many of us here know, we are facing some major challenges in the shifting climate of Asian studies education, including budget cuts and reduced federal support for area studies, with the shuttering of Title VI centers, and other reduction of resources from the federal level. In addition, even at top programs, we are witnessing reduced enrollments at the undergraduate level, in particular, a steep reduction in the number of Asian studies majors and minors. There are several reasons for this. But in general, I want to talk more about how this reflects the dropping enrollments in humanities courses across the board, as sort of rising tuition costs and economic pressures are funneling students into fields that they perceive as being more relevant to their future employment. And second, as college admissions are becoming increasingly competitive, we are seeing a system that rewards students for choosing and committing to a lane very early in middle or high school. So in other words, particularly at top schools, ambitious students are walking into the door with a plan in hand, not really treating college as a place to explore their interests, but rather as a sort of path to a future career. So this really means to me as a field that we need to, one, intervene at the secondary school level to cultivate student interest in Asian studies if we want to increase student enrollment at the undergraduate level. And second, that we really need to be able to convincingly articulate the value of these essential skills that are taught in area studies as they relate to students' future employment opportunities. But it's not all bad weather. In fact, there are many advantages that the field has in combating these challenges and weathering this temporary storm. First is that, of course, Asia represents a significant portion of the global economy and political landscape. So in other words, it is directly relevant to a lot of employment opportunities, and it's not difficult to make the case for that. And second, that Asia is a major part of the cultural vanguard in the 21st century. And we are also witnessing young people, including middle and high school students, with increasing cultural literacy and interest in Asian cultures, in particular, Asian pop cultures. So Education About Asia, as I mentioned, is really directly responding and trying to grapple with some of these major issues threatening the field at large through a two-part mission. The first part of our mission is to equip educators with the resources that they need to either introduce or enhance the study of Asia in their curriculum. And that is both in the high school and at the undergraduate level. And second, we are really aiming to increase student interest and engagement in Asian studies, particularly at that secondary school level. So I want to go into a little bit more detail about how the journal is achieving this mission. As we have relaunched online, I'm happy to share that all of Education About Asia's 2,000 plus articles and all articles going forward are fully open access, meaning they are subscription free and available to all. So particularly in this context where there is a proliferation of free information from uncertain sources and of uncertain qualities, and where educators rely on the information that they can find freely available online, it is absolutely imperative that content experts are participating in the production of the knowledge that is free and available online. And one way that they can do that is through journals like Education About Asia that are peer-reviewed. Second, we aim to align our topics that we publish in the journal with curriculum standards. In other words, really addressing those topics that are mandated to be taught in the secondary school education, whether that be through the Common Core, AP, or IB curriculums. So for example, this fall, we'll be publishing a cluster of resources created in collaboration with high school teachers around a required unit, the rise of authoritarian states in the IB curriculum. And third, we're really shifting our emphasis to the production of practical pedagogical resources that are easy for educators to implement. So in that spirit, EAA moving forward is requiring all authors to include pedagogical and classroom resource components, which include things like lesson plans, discussion questions, glossaries, PowerPoint slides, things that are ready to enter the classroom. And I have an example of that here on the right from Michael Dillon Foster's article from Education About Asia from our Spring 2026 issue. And in the issue, you can also see that some authors have even created tailored versions for middle and high school to make it very easy for teachers to use. For the second part of our mission, cultivating student interest, as I mentioned, it's really critical to intervene at the secondary school level and to cultivate interest at that level. And to do that, we really aim to align topics that we publish on with topics that students are already interested in. So for this issue, we chose Japanese monsters and yokai due to a contemporary boom of interest in Japanese folklore and popular culture, which I'm sure that Bill and Anne-Marie can talk much more about. In addition, we really want to meet students where they are. As students are learning more and more through audio and visual mediums, we are aiming to produce more multimedia content, podcast, short form video content. You can see author introduction you can see the authors have contributed video introductions to their articles here, and keeping the readings no longer than 4,000 words. And then finally, it's really important that we demonstrate the relevance of Asian studies to future employment opportunities. As I mentioned, one of the ways that we are doing that is by piloting a new feature section in the journal called Asian Studies Beyond the Academy. In this sort of video column, I interview leaders in industry, nonprofit, and government sectors who hold Asian studies degrees and can talk about how the study of Asia has actually informed their career trajectories. So for this issue, I interviewed the CFO of Mazda Motor Corporation in Japan, Jeff Guyton, and you can watch that interview on the issue as well. Looking to the future, really my vision for the journal is around this idea of building a participatory community. So in other words, I don't see the journal as a one-way street where content experts are giving something to teachers or students, but rather as a community that we're building around engagement and interest in Asian studies. And we're doing so in collaboration with organizations that share our mission, like the National Consortium for Teaching About Asia and Asian Network, to be in constant dialogue with students and high school teachers and liberal arts instructors and all educators about what kind of materials they need to enhance their curriculum, what kind of materials are useful to them, as well as what kind of materials are they interested in reading. So I think this is a system where everybody really benefits. On one hand, this Education About Asia gives content experts the opportunity to vastly expand the scope and the impact of their research and to bring their work that they've been working on for many decades in some cases from the ivory tower and onto the ground. At the same time, we're helping teachers to enhance their curriculum and the study of Asia in their work, and we're helping students learn about topics that are of interest to them. So if you are interested in getting more involved in Education About Asia, there's many ways you can do that. Of course, you can consider proposing an article or a teaching resource or refer your colleagues who are interested in the public humanities. In addition, you can become a peer reviewer. Our articles are not only peer reviewed by faculty and content experts, but also by classroom teachers. So we're always looking for more high school teachers to review content to let us know if it's actually useful in the classroom. As I mentioned, we also have a grassroots fundraising campaign, so you can contribute to the Lucian Ellington Fund for Education About Asia to support open access publication. If you know of a friend or former student who has become very successful with their Asian Studies degree, you can nominate them to participate in the Asian Studies Beyond the Academy series. Of course, you can follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And always, we welcome your ideas and suggestions. We want to know what you think would be interesting and compelling to see in the journal. You can always reach out to me at eaaeditor@asianstudies.org or to managing editor John Wilson. And I'm actually going to hand it off to John Wilson now, who's going to give you a tour of the new website that he's been working very hard on.
Well, thank you very much, Elise. That was great. Good evening, or good afternoon, or maybe good morning where you are. My name is John Wilson. I'm Publications Manager at the Association for Asian Studies. And as of last January, I'm proud to say Managing Editor for Education About Asia. I've been with the AAS for over 30 years, and I've always considered education about Asia to be one of the association's most important and impactful initiatives. It's a vital part of the association's mission and contributes to the sustainability and growth of our field by supporting research-informed teaching about Asia in schools, community colleges, and universities. I never imagined I'd end up working on the journal, and it's a great honour to continue the groundbreaking work of EAA founding editor Lucian Ellington. I'd like to start off by saying a huge thank you to everyone for attending today's webinar. Your dedication to teaching about Asia and your enthusiasm and support for education about Asia makes all of this possible. I'd also like to thank our authors who have contributed such amazing, rich content to this issue. It's been a great joy to get to know all of you and to work with you. Thank you to our peer reviewers, to the EAA editorial board, to the EAA fundraising committee, and to all of our donors and everyone involved with the EAA community. I'd also like to give a big shout out to the EAA Transition Committee, who worked tirelessly behind the scenes through 2024 to make an EAA relaunch possible, and to the EAA Editor Search Committee, who read through the many excellent applications we received. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for a whole host of people, but I'd just like to mention a few here. First, of course, is Lucian Ellington, the founder and sole editor of Education About Asia for 28 years. Amazing feat. Secondly, Elise Huerta, who's worked tirelessly over the last year to make sure that we're off to a flying start with the EAA relaunch. Next, Jan Bardsley, chair of the AAS editorial board, David Kenley, editor of our 2 book series, and AAS executive director Hilary Fincham-Sung, who have all been huge champions of EAA. And last, but by no means least, Bill Sutsui, who was the driving force behind an EAA relaunch. Bill was also chair of the EAA Transition Committee, a member of the EAA Editor Search Committee, a member of the EAA Fundraising Committee, and now author of an amazing article, Teaching Gojira, Godzilla in Japanese History, Folklore, Culture and Film, which you will hear more about from Bill in a few minutes. Not only have we been working on a new format for and a new issue of EAA, we've also moved to a new website platform, which I am excited to reveal. So while I share my screen, if we can have a metaphorical drum roll. Where do we go here? Okay, so can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Well, welcome to the brand new Education About Asia website. Come on in, let's take a look around. I don't have a lot of time, so this is going to be a quick tour, but please fasten your seatbelts and we'll get going. First off, we have a brand new URL, educationaboutasia.org. I don't know if any of you can remember the old URL. I'm not sure if I can offhand, but this one will be way easier to remember and will make EAA more visible to the world at large. Next, a quick word about our new website host, which is the Open Library for the Humanities, based at the University of London in England. The Open Library, which, as its name suggests, is a publisher and host for open access journals. It is funded by around 350 libraries worldwide who have joined the Open Library's mission to make scholarly publishing fairer, more accessible, and rigorously preserved for the digital future. The Open Library's growing list of open access journals includes Asia Network Exchange, the journal of our friends over at Asia Network. Oh. If I click on the image here, this takes us to Elise's editor's message for the brand new spring issue, where she goes over summarizes all the content, the articles for this issue. And I can't linger just due to time here, so please, I invite you to read this at your leisure. It's an excellent editor's note. And if we go back to the home page and scroll down, you will see that we have featured articles, the first 7 of which are based around the theme, our special theme for this issue, Japanese monsters and yokai. We've been fortunate to receive contributions from some of the most renowned scholars in the field, and you'll hear from Anne-Marie and Bill in a few minutes. Every single one of these articles is absolutely superb, so please be sure to check them out. I'm sure they'll be very popular with teachers and students. As we scroll further down, the 7 themed articles are followed by 5 excellent non-themed features. We have an introduction to ancient Indian political and social thought. And then we have the teaching of civil disobedience through letters from Burma's Myanmar's Generation Z, which is a lesson plan designed around letters written by students in Myanmar following the February 2021 military coup there. This is followed by 2 teaching resources: Sources for Teaching China After Mao and Teaching Pre-Modern Asian History Through Material Culture. Then we have a 10 Things to Know About article, which have been popular features in EAA through the years. In this issue, we have 10 Things to Know About K-pop, which is an early companion piece to the forthcoming Key Issues in Asian Studies book on K-pop, which will be published by AAS next year. These are followed up by 3 special features. First up, we have Nancy Hope's overview of the Freeman Book Awards, which I encourage you to view. The Freeman Book Awards are sponsored by our good friends at the National Consortium for Teaching About Asia, the AAS Committee on Teaching About Asia, and Asia for Educators over at Columbia University. Freeman Foundation funding has been essential to EAA through the years, and we gratefully acknowledge the Foundation's generous support. Next, we have our tribute videos to EAA founder, Lucian Ellington. There's an edited version and a full version, and I encourage you to watch the full version to get a really good sense of Lucian and how his work on EAA and how he himself impacted so many people. And then if I back out, as Elise mentioned, we have the inaugural Asian Studies Beyond the Academy feature, which provides an excellent example of a new multimedia offering for EAA. These special features are followed by some of the most popular articles from previous issues of EAA. So to provide you with an example of what's included with each article, I'm going to click on Michael Dillon Foster's article, Folklore, Popular Culture and Hometown Yokai in the 21st Century. So as I scroll down, you'll see the abstract. That's followed by a full text HTML version of the article. So all the way down includes the images. If I scroll back up, you will see Michael's intro video, which I'll click on. And this is embedded in our brand new EAA YouTube channel. So if I click on this, so we've been encouraging author video introductions, and these are posted on each article's page on the new YouTube channel.
My name is Michael Dillon Foster, and I've been doing research on yokai for over 30 years. In my article, I introduce what I call hometown yokai, by which I mean yokai that are associated with a specific local community, a town, village, a neighborhood, part of legend, and maybe also affiliated with a feature of the landscape or the natural environment. I hope readers will enjoy learning about the specific examples that I bring up, that I discovered in my own research, and also I hope that some of the key terms such as folklore and popular culture will be useful for thinking through ways in which ideas about yokai are expressed.
So there's a brief sample of an author introduction, half of Michael's introduction. So I encourage you to go back and watch all of the author intros. They're absolutely fabulous. Another feature of the article is the PDF version. So we have a link here just below the title, and then there's a section called Downloads here. So it's a link to the same PDF. So if I click on it, this takes us to what we would call the laid out version, which is the version that would be useful to download and print for classroom use. So I'll just kind of scroll through to give you an idea of how the article looks in it's not really a print version anymore since we're an online journal, but the idea of what can be used for downloading for classrooms. It's really great to see all these color images. And if we go right to the end here, as Elise explained earlier, we have the pedagogical classroom resources. So Michael here has included discussion questions for classroom exercises, links, interesting words and people to research further, and a glossary. I shall scroll back up to the top here, quickly show you, we have an articles tab. So that lists all the articles by order of appearance. So all of the 7 articles for this issue, followed by the non-thematic articles. And if we go to issues tab, there we have the spring issue. And then that takes us to cover images for all of the back issues for Education About Asia, going through the whole 28 years of the print issue, which I'm sure like a lot of you will probably recognize these back covers if you subscribe to EAA through the years. If I click on one of the cover images, that takes us to a list of the articles for that issue. Click on one of the articles. This is one of the popular ones, China's Great Leap Forward by Clayton Brown. So we have the full text version of that article. And then again, download the PDF version, which is what we encourage for classroom use. And that takes you to the version of the article as it would have appeared in the print issue. So I shall stop sharing my screen now. So I hope you enjoyed this super quick overview of the new EAA website, and I invite you to explore the site later at your leisure. Elise and I welcome your ideas and input for topics, special sections, multimedia resources, any other feedback. So please feel free to contact us anytime with your ideas and suggestions. Thank you. I'd like to hand you over to Mr. Bill Satsui.
Well, thank you so much, John. What a pleasure to be here this evening. Thanks to everyone for signing on today. I cannot tell you how pleased I am to see the return of Education About Asia, and how excited I am about the reimagined journal under Elisa's editorship, with a reconstituted editorial board, with the wonderful John Wilson managing production, and with huge support from the AAS, the Freeman Foundation, and many, many other contributors and supporters. For more years than I care to remember, I have read EAA, I've published in EAA, and I've made use of EAA in my teaching. Like many of you, I expect, I worried about the future of the journal after the passing of its visionary founder, Lucian Ellington. But thanks to the work of many people, and a special shout out to Jan Bardsley, to Hilary Fincham Sung, to the AAS board, and above all, Elisa and John, Education About Asia is back, and I think Lucian would be incredibly proud that it's going to be bigger, better, more accessible, more useful, and more timely than ever before. So it's a huge honor for me to be part of the relaunch of EAA and its first all-online issue with a special section on Japanese monsters and yokai, a topic, as many of you know, very near and dear to my heart. It is so neat to be in the table of contents next to my friends Anne-Marie Davis and Rachel Hutchinson, the two greatest American experts on yokai, Michael Dillon Foster and Zach Davison, my former student Mindy Landeck, and my fellow Godzilla fan Joyce Boss. Let me just talk a little then about my contribution, teaching Gojira, Godzilla in Japanese history, folklore, culture, and film. So I, of course, have loved The King of the Monsters since I was 7 or 8 years old. And as you can see behind me, I've never grown out of that passion. Like most academics, it is hard for me to feel strongly about something and not research and write and teach about it. So as a result, I've been teaching about Godzilla for the past 30 years. Now, I'm not going to claim that I was the first person to ever use kaiju movies in Japanese history survey classes in the United States, But there were not a whole lot of scholars in the mid-1990s using any Japanese pop culture in their classes, let alone grainy, bootlegged, badly subtitled prints of films featuring stuntmen in rubber suits battling through tiny models of Tokyo. What is amazing to me is that while I've taught Godzilla for so long and spoken literally dozens of times about teaching Japanese pop culture and monster movies to K-12 and post-secondary educators, I have never published anything before about teaching the Godzilla franchise. So when the opportunity came up to contribute to this special section on Japanese monsters, I was just thrilled. And I really went to town, pulling from this long experience, and above all, from a course I developed and taught with a huge amount of assistance from Catherine Tsai for the Reischauer Institute of Japanese Studies at Harvard in 2021. So what you'll find when you pull up my article online is, first of all, lots of photos of me with Godzilla. Because honestly, the only way someone with my build can look thin in a photograph is to stand next to an 80,000 metric ton lizard. Beyond that, there's a fairly short article I've written, a little less than 5,000 words, that makes the case for using the Godzilla films in the classroom, for the insights they provide into Japanese history and culture, for the way they engage students and empower them to actively contribute to discussion and debate, and a concise overview of the Godzilla franchise over the past 70 plus years, from the 1954 anti-nuclear classic Gojira to the special effects blockbusters currently being churned out in the legendary MonsterVerse, and the very thoughtful, politically charged films now being made in Japan, like Godzilla -1. Then I present 5 specific strategies based on my own personal experience of teaching Godzilla over the years for how you can bring Japanese creature features into your classroom at the high school or undergraduate levels, in introductory courses, as well as more advanced or topics offerings, in a wide range of disciplines and interdisciplinary areas. For each of these 5 strategies, I've created resources, sort of cheat sheets, to help you out. Each provides a bit of detailed background on one specific way of using the film Gojira in class, laying out the learning objectives for a class or unit, suggesting some discussion questions to raise with the students, providing suggestions for materials to use in class, such as movies and clips, and listing some online and print resources that can serve as background for instructors and assigned readings for students. In some of them, I mix in sample written assignments for students and provide some really neat examples of student work from my Japanese monsters class. So I'll just mention all 5 of the strategies I present in the article very briefly, but I'll bore down a little bit more on one that I think is particularly cool and has worked really well for me. First one is using the 1954 Gojira as a historical source, screening the entire film in class and then using it to discuss topics like war memory, nuclear fear, gender, and nationalism in early post-war Japan, providing the opportunity for students to read a pop culture artifact as a historical primary source. The second strategy is to use one scene from the movie Gojira to give students experience in intensive close reading and analysis of a cinematic source. So I encourage teachers to use the famous scene where right-wing and left-wing legislators in the Diet, Japan's parliament, argue about being transparent with the public about the threat to the country posed by a radioactive monster. This provides great opportunities to discuss the very divided political environment in 1950s Japan, which echoes in interesting ways with the United States today, changing gender roles in post-war Japan, stereotypes about harmony and consensus building in Japanese society, and the role of translation and subtitling in the consumption of non-English language films. The third of these strategies, I suggest ways of exploring with students the revealing and always divisive question of whether Godzilla is a yokai or not. which forces students to learn about yokai and about folklore, to think about cinematic kaiju, giant monsters, to consider different conceptions of monsters in Asia and the West, and to frame their own arguments about why or why not the king of the monsters may be considered a yokai. The fourth strategy is mobilizing Gojira to help students understand and make use of the concept of film genre. That is, looking at kaiju films as we might look at westerns or romantic comedies, as a means of analyzing cinema, as a way to make sense of the filmmaking process, and as a point of entry for considering how audiences consume and react to movies. Fifth, then, and finally, in what seems like a real intellectual and pedagogical stretch, I suggest ways that teachers can juxtapose Godzilla films and no theater to provide some novel perspectives on giant monster movies and to help American students better appreciate a notoriously inaccessible ancient Japanese performing arts form. So I present a teaching unit in which students read a 15th century no play by Zeami about a monster called the Nue and watch the film Gojira. I then provide a written assignment that asks students to write their own short no play retelling the story from the 1954 Godzilla movie. And this assignment, I think, really helps students see the surprising aesthetic and cultural resonances between no theater and kaiju movies and the fundamental continuities in Japanese understandings of monsters and monstrosity over the span of more than 500 years. Now, I've talked too long already, but let me end by just stressing 2 points. First, I hope my article and the classroom resources I've tacked onto it can be useful to you and to your students and to other teachers. I really think that this piece is a testament to the potential of the relaunched online open access multimedia flexible format of EAA. A piece like this would not have been possible in the old hard copy print edition of the journal. Second, I hope that my article will encourage all of you to write something for education about Asia. I will tell you, I had more fun writing this article than any I have done in years. I didn't have to do any additional research. I just went back to my syllabi and lecture notes. I was writing about things I love, Godzilla and classroom teaching, and I got to wax nostalgic about terrific former students, feel good about times when my teaching strategies worked, and laugh in retrospect when all my brightest pedagogical ideas went over in class like a lead balloon. So in short, I hope you will make the most of EAA, using it for your own teaching and contributing to it for the benefit of others. Thank you so much.
Okay, move to Anne Marie. Yeah.
Okay, great. Hold on just a minute. So thank you so much. I can never show up to any kind of talk without pictures. So I have some slides to share with you. But before I venture into them, I just want to say what an honor it is for me to be here tonight. It really is humbling to speak after such a legend, Bill Tsutsui, and to be invited to participate in this relaunch. What an amazing project, and what a great roster of experts, and to be able to contribute an article next to Bill, Michael Dillon Foster, Zach Davison, and so many others is just, as I said, humbling, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity. Okay, so I was asked this evening to talk a little bit about the writing process and about what motivated me to write this article with education about Asia. And so, as I said before, I thought one of the best ways to do this was to show some pictures of some of the objects that inspired this article and that I try to share with potential teachers and students who might want to teach about these topics. This project really did begin first with one object in particular, and that is something that we hold in the special collections at my library, where I happen to work at The Ohio State University. Now, for some context or background, I'm coming to this as a librarian and a curator, and I'll note that at OSU, I'm responsible for managing a special collection, one of the largest holdings of Japanese comics or manga in the world outside of Japan. And this huge collection includes not only contemporary manga, as one might expect, but also it has some early newsprint manga and manga precursors, including woodblock printed satirical art from the Edo and Meiji periods. And as the curator of this manga collection, and as someone who's trained as a historian, I've really spent a lot of time thinking about how can I activate these collections and these historical holdings to inspire students and bring them into the classroom and make them useful for teaching and learning. So this article really gave me that opportunity. In particular, there's one object that I'm really quite obsessed about, and that was also an inspiration for this article, and is one of the feature topics of the article. And that object is this late 19th century woodblock printed fold-out book by the artist Kawanabe Kyosai. And it depicts a famous and centuries-old visual motif in Japanese culture, known as the Night Parade of 100 Demons. And demons is often the translation that you'll get, the succinct translation for the word yokai. And essentially, this visual narrative is exactly as its title suggests. Many of you are probably familiar with it already, but it depicts demons or yokai that emerge at night, parade around, and cause a lot of mischief, but then retreat back into another world at the first light of day. So here are a few more glimpses of this object. Those of you who are familiar with yokai and students who love yokai might recognize some of these characters already who continue to appear today, reincarnated, if you will, in many popular Japanese manga and anime. But in introducing works like these to our students, I try to situate the night parade motif within a broader context of historical yokai imagery. And really helpful in achieving this goal to inspire students is the fact that many of our students are indeed already familiar with and often drawn to contemporary incarnations of these monsters, including some of the most popular or famous are Pokemon, and Shigeru Mizuki's Gegege no Kitaro, but your manga lovers in your classrooms will know many, many more. But based on this familiarity, many students I've found are just simply delighted to learn about the long history of yokai across the ages. So in tracing the night parade backwards in time, I discuss in my article the oldest known artistic rendering of the night parade, which is this 16th century scroll, which I literally have tried to scroll across the screen here, attributed to a famous court painter named Tosa Mitsunobu. But one of the things that I found fascinating in my research to do this article was that the 19th century artist Kyosai explicitly acknowledged this scroll and this artist as the inspiration for his own work some 3 centuries later. Additionally, his publishers wrote in the preface of his book, and I'm paraphrasing here, that they expected Kyosai's version to be so amazing and fantastic that it would leap out of the pages and travel beyond Japan to reach the furthest corners of the world. Now, for students, this continuity and this prediction from the 19th century can be very powerful. Instead of seeing yokai as static folklore, they can begin to appreciate through these examples an evolving conversation. Artists that have been looking back and storytellers that have been looking back and borrowing, reshaping, and responding throughout the centuries. And of course, this night parade does not end with Kyosai's woodblock printed book in the 19th century. There are numerous examples from contemporary times, and perhaps one of the most famous is in the 1994 Studio Ghibli anime called Pompoko, where we see shape-shifting coon dogs, or tanuki as they're known in Japan, reenact the night parade in a visually stunning sequence. Incidentally, I should acknowledge and shout out here, thank you, that it was one of the peer reviewers that kindly insisted that I discuss this anime in my article. Before receiving their review, I had mostly focused on the night parade that we see in Hayao Miyazaki's anime, Spirited Away, which is also gorgeous reincarnation, but a much more subtle throwback. In any event, when students consider these contemporary anime alongside earlier scrolls, again, the historical continuity becomes much more tangible for them, and they can start to appreciate that Japanese monsters move and adapt, and they carry history with them. So that's all I'm going to say for now. I have some notes about what the writing process was like for me. I couldn't help but use this pun. It was monstrous, very daunting, especially because I am publishing this article next to so many greats and so many legends in the field. But I'd love to share some more about the process later, perhaps in the Q&A. Above all, I just want to thank some of the peer reviewers, anonymous and not so anonymous, who helped me finalize this paper, and also thank Elise Huerta and John Wilson for such meticulous work and care, and just being really wonderful to work with through this process. And I really want to encourage anyone who might be sitting on the fence about writing an article for EAA. It's just been such a fabulous experience, and a very relatively quick one. I will note that I submitted my draft around September, and got the revisions, or the peer reviews back in November, and submitted those back again in December, and by January we were practically ready to publish. So a very smooth and easy process to work with the editors and Elise Huerta. So that's all I have, and welcome questions at the end, and thank you again for this opportunity.
Great. Thank you so much to everyone. And thanks to our audience. Thanks also to the people who have been tagging us on social media over the past hour, because I keep getting notifications that a lot of people are really excited that EAA is back. And we have a bunch of questions. So I'd like to get started. Oh, yeah, thanks. So some of these are for Elise and John, but I'll also see what we can get Bill and Anne-Marie in on as well. So Elise, let's start with Brenda Jordan's question, who she references Mr. Freeman, who used to say you got to have teachers, and she would add you got to catch them young. So will EAA continue to support articles for middle school teachers? Brenda says we see a lot of middle and even elementary teachers in our NCTA programming, and there's a need to serve them in addition to high school teachers.
Thank you so much for that question, Brenda, and I couldn't agree more. We see a lot of middle school teachers at various NCTA events who are always looking for materials, and we do define secondary school broadly to include middle school and high school. You can see in the spring 2026 issue in Edward O'Mahony's article that's in the non-thematic section, an introduction to ancient Indian political and social thought. If you click on the article, you will see PDFs for both a high school version and a middle school version. And that is something that we would like to encourage authors, particularly those who are classroom teachers, to continue thinking about in writing articles going forward. So thank you for that really good point.
John, a question for you from Tanya Lee, whether or not EAA will be selling ads. The old print version used to, and that was a way that a lot of institutions and programs got their message out. And so Tanya asks, what would the ads look like? Where would they be found? Or will there be other opportunities to promote programs, opportunities, products related to teaching about Asia?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something we need to look into with the new host, the Open Library for the Humanities. I believe they can feature banner advertising, but we wanted to kind of launch the website first and get it all going. But we will definitely look into that, and then as soon as if that's available, we can post something on the website, and we can send out information to our email lists and let you know. So yeah, thank you. That's great, Tanya.
Elise, a question from AAS past president Haywal Che, who says, first of all, thank you so much. And she truly appreciates your hard work and remarkable dedication in making the relaunch of EAA possible, which I think is something we all agree with. This is amazing. So Haywal says AAS regional conferences attract K through 12 teachers and students, as well as members of the broader community. And she wonders whether there might be opportunities to collaborate with the regional conferences. For anyone in the audience who's not aware, AAS has 9 regional conferences in North America and Japan. So they're held around the country, usually every year or every other year.
Hey, well, thank you so much for that suggestion. Absolutely. I think that is a wonderful place not only to promote the journal, but also to just get great feedback about what teachers are looking for. So yes, in terms of for AAS, or for EAA, we are working on a limited budget right now. But thanks to the support from the Freeman Foundation, we are able to promote the journal not only at the national conference this year, but also at the Asian Network Conference in Chicago next month. I will also be working with teachers there from liberal arts colleges. And yes, working with AAS board members who are going to be attending the regional conferences to at least distribute materials, promote the journal, and to recruit teachers to get more involved at the regional conferences.
A question about content, maybe a future special issue should be on K-pop, because Lin Chan Zhang asks, they're curious how the journal is responding to the clearly strong trend of K-pop, how we as teachers can help students understand East Asian culture is interconnected, especially when we are teaching East Asian courses and students are attracted mainly by Korea.
That's also a very timely question. In fact, we are planning a special section for the spring 2027 issue that is going to be on Asian pop cultures. And that is going to include a lot of transnational content that puts K-pop in conversation with J-pop and other popular culture trends. And we have recruited a wonderful guest editor for that section, Jason Chuen, who is an amazing editor, and we'll be getting a group of people together to work on that. So yes, we know a lot of students are very drawn to K-pop. That's a very important hook and entry point for recruiting Asian studies majors to the field. Yes.
And also be sure to check out the 10 things to know about K-pop article in the spring issue.
Yes.
And forthcoming key issues in Asian Studies book on K-pop, which will be published next year.
John, maybe you can talk a little bit more about the other types of media that EAA can feature. So we saw the embedded YouTube video, but what other types of media might we see in future updates?
Just a lot more in terms of video now that we have our own YouTube channel. We have the Asian Studies Beyond the Academy feature. So we just kind of brainstorm different types of features that would fit well into that kind of multimedia spectrum. And we always welcome your own ideas as well. So any ideas that you have that would fit towards that. We have a podcast coming up in the fall issue. So that's going to be a first for EAA. Very exciting. So we'll kind of take it as it comes, and we'll keep percolating ideas, and always contact us as well. We're always open and welcome to ideas.
Elise Christy Roundtree asks about the makeup of the editorial board and if K through 12 teachers are serving on the board.
Thank you so much for that question, Christy. Right now, the editorial board is structured to have 2 representatives from each region, the same way that the AAS editorial board is structured. So right now, because this is mostly in the editorial board function, is to recommend peer reviewers and to vet quality of articles. So this is mostly faculty on the editorial board now. But we are in close collaboration with a lot of K-12 teachers and thinking about moving forward, having this kind of dual editorial advisory board like that used to be structured in that way. But for this year, we're just trying to get the issue out and sort of looking at the primary function of the editorial board as being those peer reviewing, recommending peer reviewers. So yeah.
John, a question about moving from the old website to the new one, which I think we should say, is a process. So John did a tremendous amount of work getting the new website, but one of our audience members noticed that the case studies section on the old website is not on the new website. Are we going to continue that feature?
We're going to do a full audit of the archives, like
Yes, yeah.
as and when. Yeah, it's we've tried our best to get everything over there and looking to a decent extent, but it's going to be a process to kind of go through all the way back, and we are keeping the old archives open for a while.
Yeah, I should mention, yeah, we have all of the new material going forward will be on the new website, and also all of the archive, like all of the past issues are on the new website. But if you have links to the old website, like in your syllabus or on your website or something, those links will remain active for the rest of 2026, certainly. We don't want to throw everything off kilter too abruptly.
Right.
Let's see. A lot of audience appreciation for the new website, and I agree. It just looks fantastic. Let's see. Oh, do those who want to access the new EAA website have to be members of the AAS?
Absolutely not. It's open to everybody, open to the world. EAA for all.
Yes. A question about publishing. So in the past, there were teaching resource essays, sorry, book and movie reviews, and longer pieces. So will that still be the case? And what should someone do if they want to submit an idea for a piece?
Thank you for raising that question, Margaret. So moving forward, yes, we still have teaching resource essays. We still have book, film, multimedia review. The main difference in format is that for the feature articles, they now also must include a pedagogical resource component. So we really are trying to focus on those teaching resources. If you're interested in proposing a article or some kind of contribution or review to EAA, you can send a 250-word abstract to eaaeditor@asianstudies.org and a short author bio, and we will be in conversation with you to help you develop and hone in your topic before going ahead and writing the full manuscript to make sure that the authors are all on the same page about, the tone, the target audience before completing the manuscript. Yeah.
Elise, Nancy Hamilton comments, I look forward to connecting at AAS, and I think this would be a great opportunity for you to talk about how can people find you at AAS at our conference in Vancouver next week.
Yes, if you'll be in Vancouver next week, EAA will be there as well. John will be at the AAS booth in the exhibition hall for a large part of the conference. There we'll be promoting the new issue. We'll be recognizing the donors who've contributed to the EAA for All campaign. And we'll be soliciting additional donations. Anyone who makes a donation before the end of March will be entered into a drawing for the chance to win Godzilla collectibles donated by Bill Tutsui's personal collection. So we'll be having fun at the conference with that. We will also be hosting a Meet the Editor event, which will also be at the AAS booth, as well as a gathering in honor of Lucian Ellington. That's going to be an informal gathering Friday night. So if you'd like to stop by there, we would love to see you there as well. I will also be on the AAS editorial board panel along with Bill and others, and we'll be talking about AI in publishing. So there's lots of opportunities, and I would love to touch base and connect with all of you at the conference.
Yes, and if you need any information about any of that, it's all available at the AAS conference website. And I think we're coming up at the end of the hour, so I've been saving a comment from Charlotte Ellington for the end. So Charlotte is Lucian's wife, and she said she's truly thrilled with the relaunch and the beautiful new website, and I cannot help but feel that Lucian would be deeply pleased to see his vision carried forward with such care and commitment. So I think that's a wonderful place for us to end this discussion today. And thank you so much, Charlotte, for your support over the years. And, I agree. I think Lucian would be really pleased to see the new website and see the new relaunched version of Education About Asia. So I hope that everyone in the audience tonight takes some time to look at that new website, click around, see all of the amazing work that Elise and John, as well as Anne-Marie, Bill, and all the other authors put into their pieces. Thank you so much to everyone who's attending. I see a lot of familiar names in the audience, and I think we're going to stop there unless anyone has anything else to add.